So let's start with number one. What are the most appropriate BI methodologies?
It's a good question because there's like a zillion different methodologies floating around. If you go, I know there's a website, I actually can't remember the name of the website, that lists improvement mechanisms or idea generation mechanisms alphabetically, and it has an individual page for each letter of the alphabet. And what that alludes to is there's like a zillion ways of coming up with ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and these methodologies, primarily come up with ideas and help you solve problems and that type of thing. But what are the most appropriate ones? So what I'll do is I'll answer the question by talking a little bit about MMA as a metaphor. So mixed martial arts. Most people, I would say would be familiar with the concept of two people, getting into, what do they call it, an octagon today or whatever, getting into the octagon or the ring and fighting one another. Well, basically, a mixed martial artist is problem solving. Mm-hmm. The person in front of them fighting them is presenting a problem and they've got to react to that problem. And that's why it's called mixed martial arts, because the problems that are presented to them are unique at the time. The person might be a striker or a wrestler or a grappler or whatever. So they've got to react with the correct approach to that.
And I guess that's very different from, sort of if we're going with a sports analogy in a boxing ring, like, the other person is coming in fists only. You don't have to look around for anything else.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. It's they're striking, you're striking, and you're bound by the rules.
Yep.
One methodology to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mixed martial artists, well, you don't know what's coming at you.
The sky's the limit.
Mixed up martial artists. No, I don't know what it is. Okay, the what that alludes to or leads us into is a conversation around context determining the response. So in the mixed martial arts scenario, this particular fighter might bring a striking problem to this fighter. So the context that they're delivering or within this fighter's trying to solve the problem is determined by that. If they're striking, well, they've got to be in a position to counter the striking or deal with it in some way. If they're going to grapple or they're trying, going for a takedown to get them on the ground, well, they have to deal with that in a particular way. Business improvement is the same. This is a metaphor that maps straight across. And I think this is a misunderstanding that a lot of people don't get. Look at a mixed martial artist. There's a whole heap of different skills that they have to bring to the table. It's why it's most effective today because of these unique problems. Business improvement is identical. You sit around a table, you're trying to ask questions and come up with answers to improve a process. All you're doing is solving a problem, right? And the problem alters all the time. Every problem that you get in business improvement is a unique type of problem for that given particular moment.
And the tools you need for that particular problem are wide and varied.
And they need to be relevant to that, don't they?
Mm-hmm,
yes,
absolutely.
That's why. And I think this is the mistake in business improvement training. A lot of people think, listen, let's roll out this one methodology. It's going to be agile or it's going to be lean or Six Sigma or whatever. And they say, we're going to roll this out across the organisation. It's going to solve all our problems. It never works that way. That would be like an MMA fighter getting in the ring and all they've got is judo.
Or kickboxing. They're just kicking no matter what.
Yeah, that's right. And if all you've got is kicking, everything looks like a tree. Yeah. It's kind of like that. If all you've got is a hammer, everything's treated like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So business improvement practitioners have got to understand that they're the same as an MMA practitioner. They're just solving problems. And the context determines the type of response that you put or apply. So the question that leads you into is, what are the most common contexts?
Yeah.
Because if you know the most common context you're going to be confronted with in solving problems, then you know which methodologies are probably the most appropriate ones to get generically.
Absolutely. And then you can stack your toolkit with exactly what you need.
Right.
So that, you have the tools based on the different contexts that are approached.
It'd be like that mixed martial artist knowing that every time I go into the ring, the person in there is a striker with a bit of judo.
Yeah.
You'd kind of, okay, I'm going to adapt those, the solution for that specifically as my generic toolkit. What are the common contexts? So if you understand the common context that you're confronted with in business, then you understand the toolkits that are probably most appropriate to you. And they would be, and based in my experience, in 40 years of experience in business, is that throughput and cycle time issues is one. People say, we're trying to resolve inventory type issues. Inventory is a throughput issue.
Yep.
So throughput and cycle time issues, process variation issues, so trying to control variation, keep things in spec for the customer and that type of thing. Or failures and events. You get those one-off things, a truck breaks down or, a machine fails or something. So that kind of covers the vast majority of context where you have to problem solve.
So when we're talking about that so we're saying that covers the vast majority.
Yeah.
Things outside of that are sort of one-offs or more minor events that can be solved in other capacities.
They could be. I'm just trying to think of an example. You might have some sort of problem that relates to technology, and there are specific toolkits for treating technology problems.
Yeah. Okay.
So that sits beside this. That's another thing, but probably not as common as these things in general production and operations or service type work.
Yep.
So what you've got these common issues, and we need a toolkit that addresses those, because if you have that correct toolkit to solve this, you've actually got a lot of coverage across the different type of contextual problems that you need to resolve in your entire career. That's basically been my entire career.
Yeah.
So this is where Lean Six Sigma and root cause analysis comes into play, because Lean, when it's taught properly, when it's learned properly, you have a toolkit which helps you solve very quickly throughput and cycle time issues. That's what it was designed for. Six Sigma was designed to address process variation issues. And whilst the methodologies have a few overlaps, they're different methodologies. They originated separately. And, we're trying to bring them together today in a way that is seamless, in a way that helps you solve those two types of issues.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that, we do see sometimes with clients coming to us is that Six Sigma is used for throughput issues and people don't understand why they didn't get an improvement out of it.
Right. That was the mistake that a lot of companies made in the late 90s in Australia, particularly. Yeah. We were told you need to do Six Sigma, so they rolled out a toolkit.
And it will cover everything.
Yeah. And then
we fix all your problems.
You got it. And we had these problems, and we had these problems. We're trying to get this hammer and turn that into a nail.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of those failed. They're not there today. They're all gone. Every company that I know that was involved in that in the late 90s, early 2000s, they no longer have those initiatives. They've stopped.
But I think that's the understanding of what we're talking about here, George, is that it's about having an overall toolkit.
Right.
For a range of problems.
Right, and you adapt it correctly to the context.
Yep.
Yeah. So root cause analysis has its place. It's for, addressing failure type events and that sort of thing. But you put those together, you end up with a fairly comprehensive toolkit. And that toolkit is probably more appropriate today, done properly, than, drifting out and getting all these fancy schmancy little things that, people say they're the magic formula and whatever for solving a problem.
I think the thing is, when you have a really comprehensive toolkit like that, you become known as a problem solver.
Yes.
You can go in and solve really complex problems.
Yeah.
In any capacity.
Pretty much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because we haven't talked about industry complexity there. We just talked about issues.
Yeah.
And then you could take that process variation issue and apply it to pharmaceuticals. Yeah. Variation in the quality of a drug.
Well, that's the thing, that toolkit isn't industry specific.
Not at all.
It can go across everything.
Yeah. Done properly.
Adapted properly.
Adapted properly.
Applied properly.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.